Welcome back. All right, so you can see Bear's been on the set all day. The last time that we went away on a holiday and we came back, both Bear and Shadow were quite angry at me for a while. This time, no. Very, very affectionate upon my return. A little bit different. Older cats now, so maybe they don't get angry quite so easily. So signing news from today and a correction from a video I did earlier. First off, Nicholas Roy has signed a 5-year extension with the Vegas Golden Knights, worth $3 million per season. There are some who might say that's a bit high. There are some who would say it's perfect. I would say based on last year's production, it's a good contract. 78 games, 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points. 5-year contract means he's signed throughout his prime years by the Vegas Golden Knights. So while Vegas has traded certain players off, they've also taken care of others. And Nick Roy, who's been very good for them on their third line, we'll see how he does. Likely still on their third line this coming season, right? Now, coming back to Boston, and video I did this morning, I read it wrong. I thought it was signing bonuses plus the regular standard contract. But it's player bonuses. Player bonuses are different. They get tacked on the following season, meaning that when they hit these bonuses, and it's highly likely they'll hit those bonuses, it's a penalty that goes on Boston's cap next season. And they're not to be taken lightly. So while the Bruins are in a position where a lot of guys are going to be unrestricted free agents, this is potentially $4.5 million in dead cap next year if these guys hit their bonuses. Krejci, it's a $1 million cap hit, and then the bonuses are $2 million. That again, because they're performance bonuses, would carry over into next season. Bergeron, $2.5 million cap hit for Bergeron, which is excellent, and then a $2.5 million $2.5 million worth of performance bonuses on there as well. So what this done is it's put Boston over the salary cap according to Cap Friendly. But as I mentioned in the Boston video this morning, with the players who are going to go on LTIR, they're not going to be over the cap when the season begins. But it's not an optimal situation for the Bruins. It means once they get healthy, they're going to have to jettison somebody somewhere, and the somewheres are becoming harder and harder to find as this offseason continues. There was a report about Daryl Katz, owner of the Edmonton Oilers, and an inappropriate relationship between himself and a young ballerina who was apparently underage. But it has come out today that claim has been withdrawn, as she was 18 years of age, not 17. So they've made the apology and all this, and this is why I didn't really report this. And I stay out of this kind of reporting in general. I just want to make clear that at this point that has been dropped. So Daryl Katz off the hook for that in terms of an age issue with the young woman in question. The World Juniors starting tomorrow with 3 games. It's Czech Republic and Slovakia first, then it's Latvia and Finland, and then it's USA and Germany. What I will likely do is watch one of the 3 games each day, do a review for each game as I watch it, and talk about which players stood out and who had a really good game. So for tomorrow, I'm leaning towards Czech Republic and Slovakia. That's the early game. That's on at 11 o'clock in the morning my time. And watch that one and do a review of that one. USA and Germany is interesting too, but I want to see what happens with Czech and Slovakia because they've had battles over the years, right? Many battles over the years. And of course, it used to be Czechoslovakia. It used to be one country. So it's kind of fun to see them against each other. Now, I want to come back to the issue of the salary cap because, again, this continues to evolve. We now have 12 teams sitting above the salary cap according to Cap Friendly. Now, again, LTIR is going to take care of a lot of this, but it does leave teams in an uncomfortable position if they get healthy. It leaves them in an uncomfortable position going forward. They don't want to add a bunch more. And there are still teams that haven't signed RFAs. There are still teams that haven't filled out their roster who are going to have further problems. There are 7 teams who are not above the cap but have less than $2 million in cap space. So that's 19 teams in the league with $2 million or less in cap space. 4 more teams with less than $5 million in cap space. And so when you're looking around and saying, so why hasn't a guy like Nazem Kadri been signed? That's 23 out of 32 teams. And the 9 teams with more than $5 million in cap space, at least a few of them would not be in the market for Kadri. They're not in a position where they're going to make the playoffs. They know that. And they're not in a position where they want to spend a bunch of money either. Now, the salary cap is going to be $82.5 million this coming season. $83.5 million is the projection for next year. $84.5 million is the projection for 24-25. And then the big jump is likely in 25-26. And so that's the plan. And then, of course, there's eyeballs looking towards the end of this coming or the CBA they're in, and what might happen when this CBA is over. Part of the reason why Huberdeau's contract's structured the way it is just in case of a lockout, most of his money's in bonuses. Bonuses get paid out even during a lockout. So look for contracts to be signed that way with a lot of cash bonuses for those years where we could see a lockout. But when that big jump hits in 2025, 2026, a lot of the contracts we talk about now as being bad, and this really hurts them because it takes up so much cap space. If the cap does jump, and the speculation is it could be into the low to mid 90s, so we could go from a situation where it's $84.5 million to say $92 million over one summer. That's going to cause some crazy contracts, and that's going to cause probably some buyouts, because then you can afford, say, $3 million in buyout costs because your cap hit's gone up so much. We could see a lot of movement. Of course, that's a couple years down the road, but I get the feeling that some of the long-term contracts we're looking at, that's probably what general managers and owners are looking at, is saying, you know what, the salary cap's going to jump quite a bit 2 years down the road, in all likelihood, and the flat cap era will be done. Of course, we didn't know the flat cap era was coming, so I don't like to plan too far ahead, but it's the National Hockey League. They like looking ahead, and so we'll see what happens. But if the salary cap does make that big jump in the summer of 2025, so 3 years from now, that could be an amazing summer, and don't be too surprised if a lot of contracts end in 2025 that are signed between now and then, because that could be quite the summer. Very lucrative, and going forward, we may see a salary cap that approaches the $100 million mark at some point over the next decade, because, again, revenues this past season in the NHL were at a record high, even above where they were in 2019 before everything got messed up. The salary cap would be going up right now, if not for the fact that over the last 2 years, there are debts that were incurred by the league, which means the players are on the hook for 50% of that as well. And so escrow money goes up. Escrow money will disappear over the next couple of years as well, which is huge for players too, because it means more take-home pay for them, better situation for them, and a lot less mistrust between owners and the players. The mistrust is always going to be in the background. It always feels like there's not much room, and then all of a sudden that mistrust comes in. So there's not a lot of wiggle room there before we start to see that issue between players and owners come up again. But yeah, the salary cap is supposed to jump in a couple of summers. We'll see if, in fact, that does happen. So hopefully that does happen. I think it would be a lot of fun to see a salary cap of 91, 92 million, something crazy and insane. One thing that's been talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks is trying to win a Stanley Cup with a roster player who makes more than $10 million a year, who has a cap hit of more than $10 million a year. And the question of, will a team win a Stanley Cup with a guy with a cap hit of more than $10 million a year? The answer to that is yes, because eventually most teams will have a player who has about a $10 million a year cap hit. And it won't be considered a big deal, but it's that first team that's able to do that. And it's really going to be when that $10 million contract isn't such a high portion of your cap. It really comes down to that percentage part as well. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.